Stop. You started talking about Black Panther.
And yeah, your cats were like, I could be a Black Panther.
Well, the little one, Bast, his name is short for Bastet. It's the Panther God.
All right.
So, you don't know if you recall hearing Bast be mentioned in Black Panther.
No.
Well,
like early on? Or throughout?
It's only one or two mentions.
Okay.
But
it's there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I was there. I was there for I think I saw it at least twice in theaters. I can't remember if I saw it a third time. But man, after seeing it, I remember just leaving the theater, and every black person I saw, I was just like,
Everyone was doing the little
yo. When you go low, I go high. That's how we do things on the show.
Loves his
Yeah, I mean, it did a lot for me as a person who like longed for like something like that, but also it made me very cognizant about how every culture, every color deserves something like that. And so I remember going to watch, what was the name of that movie? Crazy Rich Asians. And not because I thought I was going to get all the jokes, and not because I thought I was going to, but I was just like, I want this movie to do well because I know what it felt like for me to watch Black Panther. And
Right.
so I want them to be able to make movies like this for, and now don't get me wrong, there are problematic things with Crazy Rich Asians, i.e. like a lot of it was like light-skinned Asians and this like culture of like crazy rich versus like your run-of-the-mill, if you will, Asian, and like the juxtapositions and what that did for like Asians who maybe didn't identify in that same kind of category, and how they can or cannot relate to the movie. All that aside, I wanted it to do well so that they can make these other movies to where people can see themselves. And a lot of that came from my experience being able to see just so much, and to have a movie written for me. Like me as a person, me as a culture, me as a whatever. Which doesn't say that we're a monolithic culture, but like as I'm hearing the jokes, as I'm, hearing, the plot line and the parts of things that acknowledge common issues, I'm like, this feels different than any movie has. Even if there were some things wrong with it.
Yeah.
Like the snow.
The one?
The snow?
In Crazy Rich Asians?
No. In Black Panther.
And Black Panther.
No.
When he gets covered in snow, it just looked really fake.
No. Well, yeah, CG was spotty.
Oh, when they go to the mountain?
Yeah.
To M'Baku?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I love that dude.
Yeah.
He's funny.
No, I just liked him. Like when I saw him, he came out all angry. I was like, that's my guy right there.
You're like, I want him to win.
Yeah. I want him to win. He was just cool, man.
That's funny. All right.
I was just gonna say, I think it's easy to look back and say that I don't think anybody else could have breathed the life into the role that Chadwick Boseman did.
I mean, if you think about that, you think about his role in
42.
Yes, I was going to say Civil War.
Oh, we're sticking with Black Panther.
Yeah, but and Avengers but yes, 42, Thurgood. Even his last movie.
21 Bridges.
Yeah.
And then
Like,
there was Five Bloods. Too.
The Five Bloods.
I haven't seen
it
that
I
yet.
haven't seen that yet, but
It's
I
on
know
Netflix.
Yeah.
Hear great things about it.
yeah, I haven't
watch
seen
it.
yet. But it's like 2.5 hours. And I was like, when am I going? Who got 2.5 hours?
How many times have you seen Endgame?
Like a couple, but the reason I don't watch it more is because it's very long. At the same time, I definitely skip some parts. Like, yeah, we don't need this.
Let's just get to the fights.
Basically. All right, let's do this. RNC.
What about it?
It's done.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
Is it?
No, not really. But I mean the national convention, if you will, has been completed.
Well, the convention's done, but
Yes.
the campaign isn't.
No, it is not, and it won't be. And depending on if you believe everything you hear at a convention, one party is trying to save America, and one party is trying to destroy it, which is not really it's not realistically what's actually happening in the world, but that's how it's painted at conventions.
Who's trying to destroy America?
Depends on who you talk to. But I will say, with the RNC this week, they did say things like he wants to let MS-13 move into your neighborhood, which is just not really a realistic thing.
Why would Joe Biden and his liberal Democrats want gang members to move into the suburbs?
I don't think they do.
Well, do you think that their lives might be better if they did live in the suburbs?
MS-13s?
Yeah.
Depends on what they want to do. I mean, at some point, they they profit off of being in a place where the ways that they make money are where they're able to make that kind of money. And I'm not sure that you're able to do that in a suburb.
Of course you can.
Yeah, but it's much more under wraps and not in the same way.
Exactly. You just don't have to put tattoos on your face. Just put them on different parts of your body where you're covered up.
Okay, but if that's the case, and you're saying of course it's already then it's already in the suburbs. We don't need MS-13. It's already occupied. That whole industry is occupied just by people who don't look like they belong to that particular gang.
So that's why we don't want MS-13 living in the suburbs.
Competition.
Yeah.
We don't want.
The burbs created a monopoly on drugs and violence.
You think so? And so we can't have other
No.
individuals, hopping in on the territory?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's your move, huh?
Well, I mean, when you go into somebody else's territory, you got to pay the price. There's a toll.
Okay.
You got to get your you got to get you got to get your G card.
What?
Yeah, you got to have somebody to vouch for you.
Oh, okay.
To come into that neighborhood and start making moves. You
I
can't be too loud.
So G card in the neighborhood, in the suburb.
Gang.
Whoa.
I would like to take this moment to point out that for a large part of Girard's life, he grew up in Hutto.
That's not true at all.
Some of it, for sure.
Yeah. Mostly my adult life, not my adolescence.
Yeah, you were still growing.
Why are you always putting my business out there in the streets? You don't know how I move? We putting my job out there. We putting out where I live. We putting out my government name.
I have not called you your full name on this show.
Let's go ahead and... What's the time on this?
22.
Put a mark on that one. RNC, like I said it before, their production was top notch.
Meh.
Their production was top notch. They got their point across that Joe Biden is an evil socialist.
Did they get that point across?
He's a weak-minded liberal who is being ever so forcefully pushed to the left by AOC and the Gang of Three, or the Squad and
that
Crazy
4?
Pelosi.
Isn't it 4?
It's AOC +3.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Sorry, I was confused.
I can't do math.
You're right. I'm not very good at it.
And crazy Bernie Sanders. Lying Chuck Schumer didn't get a shout out. No. But yeah, it happened. People watched it, but not as many people watched as much as Joe Biden's acceptance. So when Trump gave his whatever, it wasn't as highly watched or viewed as Joe Biden's.
How did Trump feel about that? I didn't even hear this yet.
He said that he screamed on Twitter that the fake news liberal media didn't account for all the streaming numbers.
Interesting.
And did they?
Probably. They normally do. That's how you count everything now.
Yeah, nobody watches TV like that.
Nobody buys music, so you count all those streams.
Yeah.
It factors into all the numbers. So when Trump said that, I don't know.
When it comes to numbers, I am inclined to not believe Trump because he also said he had like
a huge penis.
Not where I was going at all. He said he had the largest inauguration crowd.
And he did.
That's a lie.
Yeah, see? Streaming
Actually,
numbers.
that's how we got the term alternative facts. But yeah.
Streaming numbers.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like that came from that conversation about...
Because your boy Sean Spicer went on in front of the press corps and was like, look, Donald Trump had the largest inauguration crowd ever. Period.
Period that.
Everybody was like, you can say period? That doesn't make that a fact. And do you remember who gave us the term alternative facts?
Kellyanne Conway.
Yeah. Who did speak at the RNC.
She did.
But then has decided to step down from her position.
Due to family matters.
Yeah.
No, that was the end.
Okay. All right.
We weren't starting the song. It was the end.
No, okay, it's fine. I mean, we could have done it either way. Okay.
They don't deserve that.
Who?
Kellyanne Conway and her.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So her daughter disagrees with Kellyanne's political views.
As does her husband.
Wait. I'm getting there.
Okay.
Her daughter disagrees and is on the other side of the spectrum. Her husband, who is on the same side of the spectrum, is just a never Trumper. Mm-hmm. And so lots of tweets started flying, especially with their daughter being like, yo, like, essentially like, my parents are wild, and like, who would possibly support Trump? And then people started like bullying her parents and being like, and so she had to like tweet like, hey, stop being mean to my parents. But generally, like, yeah, Kellyanne Conway and her husband decided to step away from Project Lincoln, which were posting some really hard-hitting ads towards Trump because it was Republicans saying, I'm a Republican and I voted for Trump the first time and I'm not voting for him this time.
Oh, George Conway helped found the Lincoln Project.
Yeah. I call it Project Lincoln, didn't I?
Yeah. It's okay.
Lincoln Project.
Project.
I mean, if I
Lincoln Park.
if I can give you a hard time about saying Kamala Harris's name wrong, then you should, you could come after me for.
No, I'm not gonna do that.
All right, that's fine.
When you go low, I go high. That's how we do things on this show.
I'm a very low person. What was I about to say?
Something about you were going off of Project Lincoln.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. So now, Miss Alternative Facts herself has decided to step away.
I wonder what that means when she eventually comes back into the political spectrum of things.
Well, she's the first, I think, female campaign manager to ever win a presidential election, which is impressive. But you gotta think like, let me not obscure that. It is an important accomplishment for women. That said, I don't know that I would ever hire her for another president. I just feel like the circumstances of the country and the circumstances around Trump's election were so different. I'm not sure that like her methods could be generalized to help anybody else win. So, but maybe someone will use her. Maybe she's really great at what she does.
I mean, apparently she is good at what she does.
Okay.
She helped Trump get elected. She's gone on and defended him and his administration for the last 4 years.
Okay.
I'm just saying, they got shit done.
All right.
May not be the stuff that we would like.
I mean, it's not necessarily that. I just think like there are certain things that I would want and certain things that I would like characterize as this thing makes you good at that job that she does not embody.
She's good at lying. You need that in politics.
See, I don't think so. I mean, to an extent, yes, but
yeah,
the way that she was able to do it, I don't think that like I would say that would be something that I would want in a campaign manager, whether she won or not.
And that's why you would never win the presidency.
There's some other reasons. There's a lot of other reasons, in fact. Yeah.
You weren't born here?
I was very much born here,
You got mixed parents?
Nope.
It's like you're not even a real black.
I mean, my mom a little light-skinned, but...
You don't have slave blood in you.
I certainly do. Certainly do.
That's
that would not have
ridiculous.
been the problem. I got multiple sides of slave blood. Like, if that gives you a leg up, I'm with it. There was like no social distancing at the RNC.
No, not at all. There were a few people wearing masks.
Do they know? I mean, besides those few people, do they know that there's a pandemic happening? Like that we're in the middle of one?
They don't care.
How can you not care?
The only people that really spoke about it were Melania Trump and any other mention of a pandemic or COVID was in the tone of, well, we've defeated it. We've reopened most of the economy. It came from China, so it's not our fault that 180,000 people have died from the virus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I guess what? I'm concerned. I guess. Because there are a lot of old people there who are like more vulnerable and like, why would. Okay.
Well, testing.
What about it?
I'm assuming all the people who showed up
Yeah.
got tested.
That's very likely.
Whereas for Trump's campaign rallies, I don't think that's the case.
I don't think so either.
No, because there'd be a lot of cases.
Yeah, I guess we'll just roll into this. Speaking of his campaign rallies, one of his attenders decided to go murder people in Kenosha this week.
Yeah, that definitely happened.
I guess there's probably some more context to that, but generally, like,
A young man,
I didn't lie at all.
a young 17-year-old man.
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yes. Where's he from? Originally?
Illinois.
And he drove from Illinois
to Wisconsin.
to Wisconsin.
Don't get me wrong, it's not that far.
Yeah.
But, like, that's not his state.
Right.
Like, in my mind, it reminded me, and we've talked about this, it reminded me of the El Paso shooter who drove to El Paso to shoot people in the Walmart and in the streets. And, like, this generally feels similar, except for this kid is younger. Sorry, this man is younger.
Because that's how we're going to talk about him.
Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about him like he's a murderer.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
Like
And
a grown-ass murderer.
the problem is, I have really strong doubts that he'll be held accountable.
Why?
Because his claim of self-defense in our country and in our context and the way that like things have gone, it's feasible.
No, self-defense.
I mean, if you think about homeboy from Florida.
Zimmerman?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was a self-defense, and it was a badly, and I guess in my opinion, badly tried case, but he got off on self-defense, if you will. And so this kid, like, especially like if you saw the videos to an extent, like these people did run after him, but they ran after him in the context that any hero runs after somebody who's going to harm people.
Mm-hmm.
And they happen to be gunned down. And I hope that we talk about them as heroes, and we talk about, you know, Kyle as, I mean, essentially a terrorist. Like he drove to a city to terrorize people, knowing that like there were going to be peaceful people walking around, and he could be intimidating with a gun. And not only did he choose to do that, but he chose to use that gun. Like, and I hope we talk about him as a terrorist, as a domestic terrorist, in the same way that we talk about like other people who have done the same thing, gone to a place to kill people. I'm so terrible at names; it's very embarrassing.
Dylan Roof.
Not who I was going to talk about, but very good comparison, because Dylan Roof, and you know, like literally the only, I guess, difference here is Dylan Roof prayed with the people before he shot him, and this guy didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he went in that.
That makes it even more.
He sat
sinister.
in like a prayer meeting for like an hour and something before he decided to shoot those people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Girard, have you ever just like woken up one day and been like, I'm gonna go protect the gas station?
No.
And just grabbed your guns, yippee-yi-yo-ki-yay, pow, pow, and then walked and went, and then drove. I guess it's different because in Texas, like 9 hours out the state in one direction or another.
Yeah.
But you like drive to Oklahoma, like, the shell, I got you. Like,
No.
why not?
Because it's oil. If it had been like Toys R Us when they were failing,
Wow.
maybe. Just like the last Toys R Us that was out there, like, oh.
Well, I mean, there's a Blockbuster you can go stand in front of in Oregon.
I know. Late fees, man. They got me.
You still mad, bro?
They deserve their fate, for being honest.
You still mad? You still owe somebody? Yeah, but all right, let's go back. So, before Kyle Rittenhouse decided to do this, there is a video this week of Jacob Blake, and an officer followed him to his car and shot him in the back 7 times. Jacob Blake, as of now, has survived, and reports are that he's paralyzed from the waist down.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this, but I struggle to find anything to say about this that hasn't already been said, or, you know, either by me or by anybody else.
And he's being illegally detained in the hospital. Then they won't say what the charge is, so that's why I say illegal.
Okay, I see what you're saying. But yeah, handcuffed to the bed, that kind of stuff. Which,
which
if
is
you're
like
paralyzed,
it's standard when you're having to, you know, as a former corrections officer, having to take dudes to hospital. It's standard stuff. But if there's no charge, if he hasn't been booked, as far as I'm concerned, that's illegal.
Mm. But also, like, if you're paralyzed from the waist down,
where are you gonna go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how is the handcuff gonna like add to the security? I should imagine him like, I don't know. Did you watch Avatar?
No.
Last Airbender?
No.
The cartoon?
No.
Why are we friends?
I don't know. You don't like peanut butter or chocolate.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like those things. But how does that? Okay, that doesn't equate
You'll
to
never
like
know the joy of a Reese's peanut butter cup.
Ew. That's not Joy. Okay, but there's a character that like basically she's like a circus performer. I could have used Robin. Like, I just imagine this guy like on his hands, like walking on his hands out the hospital. Like, But I mean, like that seems like what they're afraid of. Like who? Like what do you think this man is gonna do? That you need to handcuff him to the bed right now.
That's standard operating procedure.
Sure.
So regardless of his condition, they're gonna do that.
I mean, that's fine. I just like in my mind, I'm like that's what their fear is, that he's gonna like after being shot 7 times just walk on his hands out the hospital like I'm free.
Well, he is black.
Can we do that?
So black people, yes, apparently.
Have you ever seen it? Are we all Simone Biles? Plus, if you're paralyzed from the waist down, even if you try to handstand, the top of your body would just fall over one way or the other.
Well, he's got plenty of time to practice, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
It's like, I don't know.
Because he's not going anywhere for a while?
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. And essentially what the issue is that it was likely completely avoidable.
Yeah, they followed him to his car where his kids were.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of, I don't know, maybe using some other method to detain him, if that's what was required, they shot him in his back.
In front of his kids.
Point blank. It's like if you're really afraid that he's going to reach into his car to pull something out, I mean, first of all, it's not often that people do that with their children in the vehicle because you put them at risk.
Yeah.
Not just by something that you may do, but you got an officer that's already got his gun out.
Mm-hmm.
If you're that worried about it, why not? There's 2 of you there.
Yeah.
Why not use your hands and arms to pull him back, do a takedown, and then handcuff him?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to those. And I think like a lot of people have questions. And there are going to be a lot of questions that, maybe we'll get answers to, maybe we'll never get answers to. But I think visually, it is a really difficult thing to watch. And a difficult truth to watch, not only in this situation, but almost repeatedly. Almost to like watch it here and then, to watch it with, gosh, where do I even start? To watch it with Tamir Rice, to watch it with George Floyd, to watch it with this individual, like over and over, and it takes its toll.
Mm-hmm.
It takes its toll, and at some point you just think like nobody's hearing that this has to stop, because if you were really truly hearing it, then something would be done. And so the NBA decided we're not going to play, which I think was an incredibly bold move. And a lot of people have been like, oh, well, they only boycotted for 3 days or whatever. Sorry, they only went on strike for 3 days or whatever. And they're trying to belittle that. But a lot of things occurred because of this 3-day strike.
Mm-hmm.
So first, the fact that it was Milwaukee that first decided not to play, I think is incredibly telling, because this occurrence happened in Kenosha, Milwaukee. And so for them as a Kenosha, Wisconsin. I was getting there. And so for them to say, hey, this is closest to us locally, it is hitting us hard, we're watching this happen. No, we don't feel like being the entertainment. We don't feel like being the distraction for the country away from this.
Mm.
And so they decided not to play the Orlando Magic, which, if I'm Orlando, I might have wanted to use that, because I don't want to guard Giannis Antetokounmpo that day. That's just not what I want to do. What? They killed a black person? What time the game? oh yeah, we're not doing that. But that's not what happened. It was actually the Bucks who decided we're not going to play, and nobody's scared of anybody on the Orlando Magic. In fact, if I asked you to name, I was going to say 3, I'll say 1. One person who plays for the Orlando Magic. You got it?
No.
Jay?
Not without having to go back through like 90s basketball.
He's like, Shaq,
Penny. Big Tim was on there for a while.
That's
Tim
rough.
Hardaway.
DJ Augustine plays for them now. Terrence Ross plays for them now. And I can't think of his name, but the homeboy who should have won the dunk contest like 2 years in a row. He plays for them.
Yeah, I don't know why you're looking at him or me.
Aaron Gordon. That's
There you go.
Yeah, I'm just now getting back into basketball.
Yeah. So
Those are the only names you remember are from basketball players.
huh?
Those are the only names you remember.
Well, it's because I really had to, because I was like challenging you, so I can't just be out here like fraudulent, you know. Okay, so that ball drops, and then other teams who obviously could have played decided, no, you're right, we're not going to be a distraction today, and so then WNBA falls in line. They decide we're not going to play today either. Multiple baseball games do the same. Soccer, same. I know. Oh, tennis. Naomi decides she's not going to play, and then writes a press release. It was probably a tweet, but I'm gonna call it a press release, talking about and pointing the attention to what was going on in Wisconsin at the time. And all of these are incredibly powerful statements, especially because when sport people, athletes have tried in the past to be vocal, and don't get me wrong, they've done this anyway, but they often get this like retort. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like, stick to sports. You should just dribble and play and stop trying to get into politics and life and all this kind of other stuff. Does that sound familiar to you?
Which side are you talking about?
What do you mean?
Which side of the political spectrum are you speaking
See,
of?
I'm not even saying that because I think, I will say it is often one side, but I think the other side often comes in as like, oh, you don't know anything about that, so you shouldn't talk about it. And that's just false. And in fact, athletes as activists have been around for a very long time and have had to, because often athletics or sports has been the only platform to allow people to have a voice that can be like magnified to such a large audience, right? So it used to be, this is going to be kind of whatever, we're here now. It used to be that like, as a black athlete, your way of being an activist was just being really, really good at sports. And I get that. And you're like, well, of course you're an athlete. You're really, but no, it was different because you couldn't just be good at sports. Because if you were just good at sports, sure, you would win and it would be great. But they had to be really, really good at sports. And I say that because while everybody was being racist to them, they would have to do things to overcome that within their sport and still win, right? So if you talk about like people like Jack Johnson, who Jack Johnson honestly did not care what you think about him, and I'll give you an example in a minute. But Jack Johnson, like, people would like mess with him all the time. People would like be calling him racist stuff, like, and people put like essentially the weight of black people on his shoulders, and so he had to like live that life while people were yelling racist stuff at him, while people are like messing with his money, while people like all that, and he still has to go out and beat, you know, the greatest white fighters to ever exist at the time, and he does that. Remember when I said Jack Johnson does not care what you think about him, right? So he had the weight of all black people on his shoulders. You know what he does because he does not care? Marries a white woman. And which, again, also activism, because you weren't allowed to do that at that time. So not only does he marry a white woman, but then he has to like what's the word for it when you have to go away?
You get canceled?
Like no, when you have to like leave, like what's homegirl?
Hiatus?
No, homegirl that had to go to Cuba.
Fire?
No, homegirl that had to go to Cuba, because
defect? No.
kinda
What's the context?
when you have to leave because you're basically gonna be arrested or you're gonna be killed if you don't.
No, you just.
Had to escape the country.
It's like
Yeah, that's what Eric Snowden.
yeah, exactly that word.
It'll come to me.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So then let's talk about Major Taylor. You know who Major Taylor is?
Who?
Major Taylor was a cyclist. And so not only was he an absolutely great cyclist, because remember I said you have to be good at sports, but you have to be really, really good. Because all these other white cyclists who would get really mad that Major Taylor was doing really well, they would try and box him in so that he couldn't like sprint out and beat these other cyclists in all these races. And he dealt with that, being boxed in, all this stuff, along with being called all these names, along with being told like you're black so you don't matter and you suck and all this kind of like all that stuff and being called whatever, and he still wins. You have to be really, really good at sports. So that was their way of just like being an activist, right? It was just being so good that you could like supersede the racism that was thrown at you. One more and then we'll move ahead. You know this one, Jesse Owens, right? So he's been being told like, oh, you know, black people will never be as good as white people. And then he goes and he pisses off home dude, Adolf Hitler, by winning in Germany, winning the Olympics in Germany.
Yeah.
So let's move forward. Then we have when we start to actually get really active and really verbal kind of activism. 1968, Mexico City Olympics. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
We have Tommy Smith, we have John Carlos. So they get first and third in their race. And when they get on the podium, they decide to hold up the fist. So as soon as they do that, they're like essentially like outcasted. They're told they have to leave the Olympics like tomorrow. You're not even allowed to be in Mexico City like anytime further than tomorrow. You need to go home immediately. They're like kicked out of their universities. They're like told, you know, you don't belong here. We don't want anything to do with you. Now there is a whole statue of them at their university. But at the time, they didn't want anything to do with that kind of activism. But there were always examples of these black athletes who were like, yo, we're not putting up with this. Like, we're going to talk. You're going to listen. You're going to know that there's something wrong here, right? So then we'll just skip to, obviously, Colin Kaepernick, right? So you have Colin who knelt during the Pledge of Allegiance. There was the whole sitting versus kneeling, all that nonsense. But that didn't change the point. He was like, look, there is a problem here. And he decides to be very vocal about it. And they outcast him. Like, they blackball him. He can't get a job in the NFL. You know, they tell him, like, oh, you're not good enough. But everybody knew, like, no, like, he's a Super Bowl winning, a Super Bowl, like, he didn't win the Super Bowl.
He took him to the Super Bowl.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He was a Super Bowl quarterback. And people were hiring, like, butt fumble dude. What's his name? Mark Sanchez?
There was somebody that wasn't that good.
There were a lot of people that weren't that good. He was probably better than
There was one guy, I think, that got picked up by the Dolphins, and he had been cut for just being sorry, and he had a horrible.
Yeah, so Fitzpatrick,
Yeah.
But anyway, there are a bunch of people who like it was like very objectively true that Colin Kaepernick would have been better, but they were like, we want nothing to do with Colin Kaepernick. And yet now the NFL is like, oh yeah, we probably should have listened to Colin Kaepernick because, you know, they haven't stopped killing black people. Let me do one more and then I promise I'm done. The University of Missouri, their football team was like, that campus was experiencing a number of just like racist incidents that was happening over and over. And the president at the University of Missouri was just kind of like, yeah, And so the football team decided we're not going to play till they remove the president. And you know what they did? They removed the president. So activism, especially in college sports, so like you're kind of seeing it now, right? So like UT, their football team this year was like, yo, we want essentially Painter's name. You know who Painter is? So he's the president of UT at the time of Heman Sweat. And so Heman Sweat was an individual who just wanted to be admitted to Texas Law School. And Painter was like, nah. And so he sued. And so the case is Sweat versus Painter, which was argued, if I'm not mistaken, by Thurgood Marshall. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. So that gets argued, and that is why Heman Sweat was the first person to be allowed into a law school, which is one of the like premier cases in United States history. So T.S. Painter still has a building named after him on campus. And the UT football team was like, we don't really like this. And so they decided what we're going to do is like, we'll play, but we're not going to do any recruiting. We're not going to do any of this like side stuff that you have us doing until you fix these issues. And so they're like, UT goes to the drawing board, whatever, and they figure out some ways to compromise. And they're like, we're not going to take Painter's name off the building, but what we will do is we'll make an entrance to that building in Painter, and we'll call it the Heman Sweat entrance. Or something like that. And it's like, it's very performative. And in my mind, if they're really trying to be like historically accurate, what they should do is they should make this entrance. It should be a really like elaborate door. Yeah. It should be like really beautiful and everything. And it should just stay locked all the time. Because that's what Painter really wanted, was to keep black people out. Anyway, so University of Missouri, they get the president to resign, and then they start playing football again. My point is, activism from athletes has been a long process, and despite people for years saying just play your sport and shut up, that's never been the case. And so we're seeing that even now we have NBA players who are standing on the backs of all these people who have been activists for years. And it's making a really big difference. It's making a really big difference. Anyway, it's making a really big difference, even if people are attempting to kind of find ways to say like, oh, it was only 2 days or whatever. In that 2 days, what they did was they shut down the entire sports world. Mm-hmm. Like even hockey, NHL, who like traditionally is like, do we even have black people playing? Why do we care? They have about 5% black people, but even NHL was like, all right, fine. And MLB, who like tried to finagle like, hey, instead of like not playing, what if we just take a racial justice break? And the Mets were like, no. And they decided not to play. And that is all the respect that leagues are giving this movement and giving this attention has to do with the athletes making this decision of like, no, like it's on us and we're not going to play if you don't become a part of this. And so what the NBA decided to do, or what the NBA compromised to get, was one, I don't know why I said one, I don't remember the other ones, this is the only I remember, but all of the stadiums, all the arenas will be used as polling places, which is like a very practical thing and a practical way of saying like, hey, we think this is important. We want you to do what you can do. And one of the things that you possibly can do that may make a difference is vote. That was really long. I'm very sorry, but that was like a history lesson.
No, you had to get your shit off, man.
That all started because of Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, we didn't even move. I didn't even move us back to how we got to Kyle Rittenhouse. Okay, so after that shooting, after the NBA, there was unrest in Kenosha. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what to call it. I'm going to call it protest. But I'm going to call it both. There's protest and unrest, right? So obviously I'm going to say obviously. There was peaceful protest, especially during the day. And at night, there was some unrest. And I don't even know how I feel about that, to be honest with you. Like I'll just say I am not ready to vilify anybody who destroys property. I saw some graffiti this week that I thought was very poignant, and it was like, you have taken from us far more than we could ever loot. And I thought that was a really poignant point. And so the idea that like attention is gotten because people have not regarded and heard peaceful protests well, like I don't know that I have a. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but I am not ready to vilify like a bunch of people who are just struggling to figure out how to be heard here. And I feel like there are ways that you could show them that they're being heard, and I imagine like if you could do that well, maybe they wouldn't destroy property.
Well, I mean, even Hurricane Laura decided to take down a Confederate statue before.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
See, that's why. See, white people got you. See, it's Hurricane Lauda. See, if you said it right, see now it makes sense of why she took down a Confederate statue. Lauda wouldn't mess with the Confederacy.
Where's that name come from?
Lauda?
Yeah.
It's like a Spanish pronunciation of Laura.
Yeah.
Lauda.
All right, we'll go with that.
What do you mean we'll go with it? I didn't make it up.
No, yeah.
I'm not saying it.
Got it?
I'm not saying that you did. But yeah, that happened. So.
Yeah, no. I dig Lauda. Wait, but does that mean she'll get 10 years in up to 10 years in federal prison for
already
knocking down a Confederate statue?
Well, they'd have to catch her first. She's already gone past state lines, and she'll be leaving the country here pretty soon.
Send Kyle.
I think she's seeking asylum.
Where? Thank you. That was the word we were looking for earlier.
Yes.
Where were you at then?
Well, you know Texans just like to be shooting shotguns at hurricanes, so.
Just go drop Kyle off.
Hated that shit.
Go drop Kyle off in the hurricane. Like, look at all that property damage. go protect Michelle.
Well, that was an L, and what was the other one? Marco?
Yeah.
So we're getting close to the K's.
I don't think you understand how the alphabet works.
And, he's just saying we're getting close to the K's.
We would have already passed the K's.
No, L, M, N, O. Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're past K's?
Yes.
Well, it's been a while since I sang the
Apparently both of you.
I've done stop trying to defend you. I'm horrible.
My apologies to you and to our American alphabet.
No, because I was like this close to being like, am I wrong?
And I can't wait no more. Plus I can't fake that. I just don't feel out of place no more. And I'm the one that made that. I made that. I made that. And I can't invest in what I can't envision.
Thanks.